disabilities? Why don't you want to protect kids who have been every decade denied equal access simply because of how much their parents make, the zip code they live in, the color of their skin? Why are you shuttering a department that's supposed to lift up those children?
Because those programs don't have to flow through the Department of Education.
They can flow through the state. I was a state legislator. That's called shift and shaft. I've spoken with the governor of Pennsylvania. They can't pick up the tab anymore for education of our students. Not to mention, it would be inequitable by state, by state, by state. Why are you in this job at all? If you don't have a dedication to the future of our children, why are you in this job?
I too am a mother and a grandmother, and I want the best for my family going forward.
Vouchers.
For my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren, and I hope to leave a legacy that we have established best practices for education that all the states can use. That would be a great legacy to be able to leave, to be able to show states these are some of the things that they can do. I think states have to look at their budgets.
Madam Secretary, the legacy you will be leaving is that I shut down the Department of Education. How we educate our children determines not just their future, but our own. I think it's a sad legacy you will leave. I yield back.
I'm going to play that again. all gravity, any day above ground limit. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. We got to play this again. I want everybody to be able to digest what you just heard.
Why in God's name do you want to shutter it? Why don't you want to protect kids with disabilities? Why don't you want to protect kids who have been every decade denied equal access simply because of how much their parents make, the zip code they live in, the color of their skin? Why are you shuttering a department that's supposed to lift up those children?
Because those programs don't have to flow through the Department of Education.
They can flow through the state. I was a state legislator. That's called shift and shaft. I've spoken with the governor of Pennsylvania. They can't pick up the tab anymore for education of our students. Not to mention, it would be inequitable by state, by state, by state. Why are you in this job at all? If you don't have a dedication to the future of our children, why are you in this job?
I too am a mother and a grandmother, and I want the best for my family going forward.
Vouchers.
For my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren, and I hope to leave a legacy that we have established best practices for education that all the states can use. That would be a great legacy to be able to leave, to be able to show states these are some of the things that they can do. I think states have to look at their budgets.
Madam Secretary, the legacy you will be leaving is that I shut down the Department of Education. How we educate our children determines not just their future, but our own. I think it's a sad legacy you will leave. I yield back.
I tell you, Linda McMahon, just like her soon-to-be ex-husband, they know how to sell. Now, look, I'm not advocating for the Federal Department of Education. But at a certain point, you got to ask yourself the question, great, you shutter it and send all those resources back to the states. Y'all then are going to be the same ones complaining that each state ain't doing enough. Even though you do it now. The kids can't read. So there's no point in giving them a quality education if they don't even have basic literacy. How are they supposed to absorb knowledge and let their brains play with their senses if they can't even understand what's on a page? I mean, these are the same kids who can't even read a clock. They can't even read Roman numerals. Family, I want y'all to understand this. These are the same people whose children cannot read Roman numerals, but they expect these kids to know Latin terms when they become adults and want to start talking about laws and all this. I sat on this platform about 4 years ago. 3 years ago. and said that these kids, what happened to the world in the pandemic, these kids were going to regress. I literally did a whole live stream showing how these kids were regressing 1 year after the pandemic. And I said in that broadcast, it was going to get worse every year we go further. We're in 2025 now. Their damn near 5-year data looks horrendous. We're at the point now that these kids have been conditioned to believe pictures over words. They listen to things and read things and they can't absorb it and realize in the next sentence they said the same thing. Oh, you don't believe me? I figured you didn't. I'm going to give you a great example of it. And you're going to fall on your head. Now, before we get there, I want y'all to look at this graph. I mentioned Illinois a couple weeks ago. They said the kids can't read in Illinois. Not a single student can read at grade level in 30 Illinois schools. 30. 30. You're sending these kids outside. This is in 2022. You're sending these kids outside. They can't even read. But you want them to get these degrees and be the next innovators that are going to shape the world. This is just Illinois. But let them tell it. Black people run Chicago. That's what they're going to tell us. Yet you have a white man who comes from a rich background running Illinois. I talked about Baltimore before Illinois. They always love to run to Baltimore talking about them kids can't read. And like they always they always have a black mayor who runs Annapolis. Last I checked, who runs it? Because it ain't black people. Who runs Baltimore? Because it ain't black people. A mayor does not run the city. That's why you have city councils. Huh. But black people can't read. I wonder why. But let's ignore history. Great. Now you got white kids that can't read. And they're becoming adults. You have Hispanic kids that can't read and becoming adults. You have Asian kids that can't read becoming adults. Oh, there ain't no problem then, right? It's not a problem then. Let's just focus on the black kids. But y'all are putting illiterate people who are not black, you're putting them in positions of authority. Family, I want y'all to understand, these are the same folk who are watching these videos of these cops getting owned by citizens who actually know how to read. They're saying that the people who know how to read should comply with the commands of the officer who can't. Well, one of the main jobs of an officer is to be able to legislate the law and explain it to the citizenry while they're outside. They can't even explain it. But let's get to that. Because y'all know me. I love a good debate. Yes, I do. what was that, Sunday? I found one of them kids that must have been socially promoted. And it was bad, family. I caught this person saying the same thing and didn't even realize he was arguing against his own argument, which was crazy to me. So old Matt, aka Matt Walsh, put this up on June 8th. We're constantly told about all the wondrous benefits that hardworking Mexicans bring to our country. Yet Mexico, with all of its Mexicans, is a dysfunctional shithole that Mexicans desperately want to escape. Something isn't adding up here. Yes, because every Mexican is trying to run from Mexico, according to Matt Walsh. But he's never brought up the fact that you had white people run to Mexico during the pandemic, and by them running over there, jacked everything up. But okay, that's not what we're here to legislate this morning. He then said, this is the pattern repeated over and over again. We're told that immigrants are integral to building and maintaining our country. Yet these immigrants apparently couldn't build and maintain their own countries, which is why they ran away and came here. Now, he kind of sounds like what Black America was saying for the past 3 years. But, you know, they figured out the grift. So now they're going to be anti-immigration. Yet this was the same Matt Walsh who didn't say a word about the 50 refugees from South Africa that they promoted. You know, there's hundreds more over here now that they threw in at the dead of night. But again, that's not what we're here for. So one of the hoteps saw the tweet and said, it's cool if they're white and couldn't stay to fix their country and ran to come here. He put up this tweet from Matt Walsh. The South African refugees are families who are excited and grateful to become Americans. They're productive members of society and they speak English. They are in every way far better fits than the third world refugees that we've accepted by the boatload every day for decades. Third world, because y'all bring up these pictures of South Africa all the time, especially the one with the separation. That's not third world. So he's telling us there's no third world South Africans. By the way, Matt, because we know you can't read, you don't research, none of this. You're one of the people I'm talking about. You were probably socially promoted in school, but that's okay. Those people that claim that they're refugees from South Africa are the bottom of the barrel. That's already been proven. Because the rich white South Africans did not leave. Why is that? I want you to keep a pin in that because we're going to get to the fun now. So this person with the Archie Bunker Avi, so I already knew what time they were on, said those South Africans are the productive members of that country. That's why the mongrels are trying to take their land. The mongrels. The mongrels. There's a big difference between them and the leeches. Now, me and Hotep Goldstein picked up on what he was doing. So we responded in kind. So I said, what about the one that just offed his wife? Because as you may not know, one of them South African, quote unquote, refugees offed his old lady here in America. A couple of them did crimes as well, but just for the sake of this argument, I only brought up that one since he wants to talk about productive members of society. So Hotep Goldstein said, no, there isn't. Okay. We got that. So because I asked, what about the one that offed his wife? Because I want to know how they're productive. That's not productive. You destroyed your family. And the family you've married into, you destroyed them by killing their daughter, killing possibly their aunt, niece. You did that. Somebody's daughter you killed. Okay. Okay. Dancing on the Sun. I'm first off, see, this is why you should say good morning and listen before you're writing stupid things in the chat. There's a reason why I'm talking about this. If you came in, let me help you because you probably didn't see the title. The title is The Kids Can't Read in Mainstream America. That's basically what we're talking about. I'm trying to show you when they become adults, they can't even read what they wrote. That's why I'm talking about South Africa. But see, you came in late. Instead of listening, you decided to pipe up. You must have been the envy of your classes. Now be quiet, please. Thank you so much. What was I saying? Yes. So because I said, what about the one that offed his wife? He decided to go to Wikipedia, which he didn't read, and try to give me an article about whataboutism. Not realizing that he just did. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. So I said, so we're excusing someone dying. I'm roping the troll in. You see, he hasn't realized this yet. Yes, I'm rude because I don't like stupid people. Yes, stupidity slows us down. Thank you so much. Now, if you don't like it, you can leave. You know, it's spelled Leave. And if you're going to say I'm rude, make sure after sir, you put a comma. Thank you so much. And a pronunciation at the end. Thank you so much. Please be quiet. Thank you so much. So he said, are you making the argument that there haven't been any illegal immigrant? Oh, Lord. See what I mean? Can't read, but okay. It's immigrants, plural, but okay. That have, not has, murdered someone after entering the country. Clearly there has. Your response is whataboutism. It doesn't address the argument. It simply deflects from it. Called him. I'm going to show him how he's not smart. He didn't read what he wrote. I want y'all to keep this statement in mind. Productive members of the country, which already was debunked, but okay. Good. English isn't your first language, by the way. So you should be very diligent in what you write. Thank you so much. I responded by saying, you said the South Africaners that came here are productive, which he said. Besides this one I mentioned, there were 3 other stories of them committing crime. If we're going to talk about non-citizens, include everyone. That's fair. You can't say somebody is productive. I give you an example of them being counterproductive, and you still can't say that they're productive. It doesn't work. Then he decided to say, you said the South Africaners that came here productive. I did not say that. Learn to read. He's going to tell me I don't know what he wrote. He's going to tell us he didn't say that. This is crazy, but you know, I don't want to kid. He gonna tell me later that I can't read, even though I literally copied and paraphrased a little bit what he wrote, which means the same damn thing. But okay. Those South Africans are the productive members of that country. You're saying they would be productive here. Learn what words mean, and depending on how they're structured in a sentence can mean, I meant to say different, but you know, autocorrect and all that. I didn't say it, so that was on me. Can mean distant thing. I meant to say different. So I took that same thing from Sonny, which I'm going to show you this story right here before we end. The kids can't read. He comes back and says, you're saying they would be productive here. No, I'm not. Learn to read. The standards of what constitutes productive change from country to country. They are productive in South Africa. That says nothing about their abilities in America. This is where you take a troll and you move the planks from the floor and they fall in the trap. Got him. Which I'm going to tell him later and I'm going to show it to you. You writing this is called I don't know, but I'm trying to sound smart. You have no empirical data that is going to show us that these South Africans are productive members of their country. Because as I said, we already have proof that he could have gotten that those 50 that Trump brought over are not the upper echelon of the society. And remember, I told you, I watched that chick that had the pink Adidas jacket on. She's going to be a problem in a couple of years. So then I read this already. So he said, so you're admitting what you originally tweeted brought nothing of value to the conversation because you just said you can't gauge their success here. I hope you realize you just owned yourself. He said, no, my point still stands. There's a big difference between them and the leeches. The people fleeing South Africa are doing so because of persecution. First off, we've already proven it. The media already proved it. People on the ground in South Africa have already proved it and proved it. There's no genocide going on down there. And Trump looked like an idiot putting a video from the Congo and saying that was South Africa. But okay. The people fleeing South Africa are doing so to leech off a successful country because South Africa is not successful. Okay. I didn't know that. The minority hold most of the wealth, but they're not successful. They haven't collapsed. But they're, according to him, now, I didn't catch this on Sunday, but this man said South Africa, then South America. Why are we talking about South America? El Patron, there's no genocide. We've already went over that. And if there's such a genocide, why is your president still not talking about it? How come the ICJ hasn't brought South Africa's leaders up to Europe and have them talk about that and prove there isn't? Your agricultural minister from South Africa already told Trump to his face there's no genocide going on. So y'all not going to believe the Boer, right? You're not going to believe that white man, right? I understand you don't believe Cyril Ramaphosa. I understand that. You think he's a shill. I think he's a shill too. But you won't believe the agricultural minister who is a white man. You won't believe him. Okay. Got it. Got it. Dancing. Oh, God. Okay. Dancing of the sun. Okay. On the sun. Last time. If I was going to talk about LA, I would have titled it and we would be talking about LA. The reason I'm not talking about LA is because this has nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. If you're not going to contribute to this, what I'm talking about, you can leave. This is the last time I'm going to tell you this. You can go find other channels that are talking about the LA riots or the protests, whatever you want to call it. I'm not discussing it. I already know the plan. And the people that have been here longer than you already know what I'm going to say about that, which is why I'm not going to discuss it. This is all a well-laid plan. Thank you so much. Now, if you'd like to stay and contribute to what we're talking about and help us come up with solutions so these kids can learn how to read, I'm all for you staying. If you don't want to, you can leave. It's a great Tuesday. Go be productive. Thank you so much. So I came back to him and said, what persecution, sir? South Africans already went on film and said there's no genocide. They ran because the administration gave a set amount of folks the option. You got worked. You want international welfare recipients instead of homegrown ones. He said, you want international welfare recipients instead of homegrown ones. No, I want neither. You are creating arguments, assigning them to me, and then arguing against them. Why not just engage with what I've actually said instead of making up bullshit? Well, I couldn't do that, sir, because you said this. I already knew where he was going with this. He was going to bring up race, but I wasn't going to feed him. The only reason why he wrote this was to prop up white South Africans. Because I guarantee you, he would have said something if it was a bunch of black South Africans that would have showed up here. He would have said something. Why are we letting them in if we're supposed to be talking about immigration needs to be reformed? And this is why I hit the right wing the way I do, because they're hypocrites. They were the same ones saying, get these people, they're doing it right now, saying, get these people out of the country. But you accepted over 100 white South Africans coming over here because Trump said it's okay. They need to run from something that's not even happening. Okay. So I said, I hope you realize you argued against your own point from the beginning. Why would you say that first, then get mad I called you out for a point you have no facts about? And I showed him what he wrote. He said, what are you talking about? My point from the beginning was summarized in the final sentence. There's a big difference between them and the leeches. The leeches. We know who he's talking about. When have I deviated from this argument? Fleeing persecution and violence is inherently different than those seeking welfare. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's funny that they never paid attention to South Africa until Ramaphosa showed up here. But then they get mad when I say Trump be working them. They get upset. Carmen, the stream, I'm glad you asked. The stream is about how these kids can't read and they grow up to adults and can't even read what they wrote, or what they write. That's what the stream is about. I'm just giving y'all an example of it. Somebody writing something and then you call them out on it and then they try to work it around to try to make their point, not realizing they said the same thing again. That's what the stream is wrong about. Okay, great. We help South Africa. So what? They're not running from anything. What are they running from? Prove. I love. Okay, fine. I want one of y'all to prove that there's a genocide happening right now. Go ahead. Go prove it. It's very easy. The people fleeing South Africa can't stay and fix that country because they have no political power there. In Mexico, everyone is Mexican. They run the place. I'm not sure why you're having issues understanding this. So I said, so you're praising failure and don't know anything about nationality. I got it now. The fact you think the Africans have no power in South Africa shows everyone now. I meant to say your, but again, autocorrect. Your responses are weak-minded and everything I said to you was valid. He said, I have no idea what you're trying to say. You're constantly deflecting rather than addressing what I said. I don't want to discuss whether or not the 3% of whites in South Africa have political power. It has nothing to do with what I said. It's a deflection. This fool really thinks there's only 3% white people in South Africa. 3%. Sir, Jeremy, I asked you, go prove there's a genocide happening in South Africa right now. Go ahead. Caught him. 3%. I said, I can't talk to you anymore. You think there's only 3% white South Africans. You're ill-equipped for this discussion. He said 7.3, beg my pardon. So you didn't even look it up before you told me. They just throw out a number. It would have taken look at the time difference. I wrote that at 5:25. It would have taken him 30 seconds to go look that up before he wrote this. In between 5 minutes, he could have looked this up before he wrote that. Never mind. No, Jeremy, y'all never paid attention to South Africa. The genocide happened allegedly, and then it went away, and y'all didn't care about it then, because I've been on social media since the early 90s when it was just AOL Messenger. If we're going to talk about South Africa, I was on that story. I just didn't say anything because I was like, that's kind of fucked up. But that's their problem. The last time anything happened down there in terms of a genocide was in 2023. So that's 2 years. Y'all didn't give a shit about it then because y'all would have kept it in the news cycle. But you didn't because you didn't care. So please don't tell me y'all was paying attention. Thank you so much. But we're off this. So we just proved now we got adults out there that can't even read what they write. Cool. Let's have fun now. We're going to start here. What I mentioned in the beginning, when we went over those stats a year after the pandemic and showed you how the kids were regressing. This is from the National Library of Medicine. Reading achievements declined during the C-19 pandemic. Evidence from 5 million U.S. students in grades 3 through 8. These are the bebés and the little mini bebés. We're going to move down. Now, of course, I always got to talk about race. Which, when I did that one live, I told y'all, because they didn't have access to the internet and the resources. Because remember, we were going over how these schools were doing virtual learning and remote learning, and a lot of these kids didn't have stable internet connections, so they couldn't even log in. And a lot of them couldn't get to the libraries to use their Wi-Fi. So yes, they were going to be behind. So we get here. Table 1. Y'all gonna like this. So this was fall 2019. So he took 546,000 plus students from almost 8,000 schools and the demographics, right? Now these are all ethnicities. So as you see, the numbers started, except from here, this started to all fall. Raised a little bit, because remember, it's fall 2020. Fall 2021, kids started going back inside school consistently. That's the racial. This is U.S. public schools. All right, here we go. Now, this also counts for math as well. Do you see how these started dropping? Look at this. 4th grade math, 14%. In fall 2017. This graph is basically telling you the average, right? These test takers, when they take these tests. Sorry. Oh boy, we got a dummy in the class. We exited the dummy. Sorry, stupid phone calls. That was on me. Okay. You know what? Let me put this on Do Not Disturb. All right. Okay. We should be okay now. So this graph, Do you see how these reading levels dropped in 2 years? Look at the grade 3 in 2 years. 3rd grade. These are reading levels. Look at the math levels. But they want to push tech on these kids. These kids can't even do math. So high poverty, you have negative 0.25% between 3rd and 5th grade. Now, luckily, it goes up as you get closer to high school level. And when you have low poverty, they were affected as well during the pandemic, but it wasn't as bad. Even though 0.1% is still, that shouldn't have happened because they have more resources. But they want to kill the Department of Education and rely on the states with no oversight. And this is racial breakdowns. So low income. So before y'all try to lie to me and tell me that Asians need to get into these schools, just understand high poverty, it attracts them too. They fell. It doesn't matter how much money they made. Their stuff fell too. White people fell too. I don't know what. Oh, that's the Alaskans. They fell. Hispanics fell. Black people fell. They don't give a fuck about your kids. Down here in Atlanta, they had that whole scandal in 2009 with them schools that just pushed these kids out. These kids couldn't even read or do math at the basic 1st grade level. And then they ended up getting sued and going to jail. Now you have an entire generation that can't read or write or do arithmetic. Now, again, this is on the National Library of Medicine if you want to go look it up. The reason why Black people have lower reading rates is because we have less resources. That's why. And when the pandemic happened, those few resources we had got taken away. Which is why I've preached on this channel many times, us as parents, we have to get involved and we have to let these kids read. Do it at home. If the school ain't doing it, you got to do it. A book a day ain't going to hurt these kids. So there's that. Then we have this, the Center for Education Policy Research at Harvard. The scary truth about how far behind American kids have fallen. Now, this was in 2024, September 20th. Students of all ages still haven't made up the ground they lost during the pandemic. Sometimes panics are overblown. Sometimes older generations are just freaking out about the youngs, as they have since time immemorial. That's not the case, unfortunately, with kids learning right now, more than 4 years after the scamdemic shuttered classrooms and disrupted the lives of millions of children. The effects were seen almost immediately as students' performances in reading and math began to dip far below pre-pandemic norms, worrying educators and families around the country. Even now, according to a new report released this week by the Center on Reinventing Public Education, or CRPE, a research group at Arizona State University that has studied the impact of C-19 on education since 2020, the average American student is less than halfway to a full academic recovery from the effects of the scamdemic. Blade, why we would get them a speak and spell, they can just go open a book. You can go online and get worksheets that either have the pictures and you figure out what the picture is, or the ones that have the answer there, you just trace it over and sound out the word. Why do you need to get them a speak and spell? You could literally do it for free. Huh. Okay. Not everything requires money. The report, the group's third annual analysis of the state of the American student, combines test scores and academic research with parent interviews to paint a picture of the challenges facing public schools and the families they serve. The picture is sobering. In spring 2023, just 56% of American fourth graders were performing on grade level in math, down from 69% in 2019, according to just one example of test score data cited in the report. 13% drop in 2 years. Well, I'm sorry, 4 years. I'm sorry, I forgot they did this in 2023. Vic Morrison, they're not doing year-round school. Even the Japanese don't do that. They give them August off. You've got to be with your kids 24. Well, you can't do it 24/7, but you have to be involved. We got to get back to the time when we have these kids do their homework. They bring it down to the dinner table after dinner, and we check their work. We got to be back involved in these schools. My kid's teacher, she just had in kindergarten, she knows my old lady. She knows me. We there all the time. They have an app called Class Dojo. You can text the teachers. They give updates every day of what goes on in school. We got to be in our children's lives. We can't be depending on these teachers. We can't. Those are our kids. Sir, if a dummy can get online and look up a video of fights or looking up recipes, a dummy can get worksheets. It's not hard. My wife and I do it all the time. We're not dummies. It's not hard. Hell, since most people don't want to read anyway, there's plenty of YouTube videos right now teach people how to read. Read on tablets. It's not hard. They have apps if y'all don't want to go down the old school way. Now you're advocating for laziness. Declines in reading were less stark but still concerning and concentrated in earlier grades, with 65% of third graders performing on grade level compared with 72% in 2019. Recovery in reading has also been slow, with some researchers finding essentially no rebound since students return to the classroom. The report mirrors what many teachers say they are seeing in their classrooms, and some sound the alarm publicly about kids who say they can't write a sentence or pay attention to a 3-minute video. Because everybody knows once you learn how to read, you learn how to focus. When you focus, you know how to write a sentence with correct subject, verb, agreement, and subject predicates. You learn it. And when you read, you've conditioned your brain to listen for things. So you can watch videos and you can absorb the information. And if somebody asks you what you just saw, you can regurgitate it to them. We got to get back in our kids' lives. How do my strategies don't make sense? Oh, Lord. Here we go. Okay. Because you're telling me a dummy can't type in 2 words and get all this. You're telling me that, right? Reading worksheets. Free. Free worksheets you could just print out. You're telling me they can't do this. A dummy can't do this. Huh. Okay. Thank you, Vic. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Vic. You just told everybody in here you're lazy. Well, Vic, let me help you. I work 2 jobs. And I still have time to figure out, to tell my daughter, get off the PS5, put down the tablet, and charge it because you have a propensity to run out electronics and go read a book. That didn't cost me nothing but about 10 seconds. Hell, you can go in there and read with her or him. I don't know how many kids you got. It ain't that hard. That sounds like laziness to me. My kid has a library card. There's 2 libraries within 2 miles of where I live. They go rent books. Matter of fact, her birthday's coming up this weekend. I'm going to go buy her a book off of Amazon. It ain't that hard. Don't tell me because you worked 108 hours that you should say, it's hard. You're supposed to look out for my kids. That's what you're supposed to do as an adult. Your time for play is over. When that baby come out of your wife cooter, play is over. Ain't nothing you do supposed to be minimal when you try to make that person an adult that functions in society. I don't want to hear that. That's what they're counting on. That's why they're programming these kids to be dumb drones. We can't allow that no more. The government don't give a shit about our kids because they figured we don't give a shit about them. Correct. I'm glad they got a bachelor's degree. I'm glad. But be careful what you type it in there because people are going to see it back and they're going to say, I worked 12 hours, 9 days in a row for years. People are going to think you being lazy, you don't care about your kids. You can't throw that out there like that. Got to be careful. We continue. Focus and endurance for any sort of task, especially reading, has been really hard for a lot of teenagers since coming back from pandemic closures. Sarah Mulhern Gross, who teaches honors English at High Technology High School in Lincroft, New Jersey, told Vox. Meanwhile, even the youngest children who were not yet in school when lockdowns began are showing troubling signs of academic and behavioral delays. We are talking 4 and 5-year-olds who are throwing chairs, biting, hitting. Tommy Sheridan, Deputy Director of the National Head Start Association, told the New York Times earlier this year. Well, there's a reason for that. Because they weren't around other kids when the lockdowns happened. They didn't know how to play with kids. Remember, everybody told us to stay 6 feet away from everybody. We couldn't even be at the park. Do you understand during the pandemic, they had cops in the park. If your kids got close, they told you, get them away from them. They're going to write you a summons. If schools and districts can't reverse the trends, C-19 could leave an indelible mark on a generation of kids, CRPE Director Robin Lake said this week. The effects are the greatest for low-income students, students with disabilities, and children learning English as a second language who faced educational inequities prior to the scamdemic that have only worsened today. COVID-19 shined a light on the resource inequities and opportunity gaps that existed in this country and then exacerbated them, said Allison Sokol, Vice President for P12 Policy, Research and Practice at EdTrust, a nonprofit devoted to educational equity. The report is the latest effort to catalog what many educators, parents, and kids see as the deep scars, academic, but also social and emotional, left behind by the pandemic. Again, this is on the Center for Education Policy Research at Harvard. But I get it. It's words. You may not take to it. It's a lot to read, it's a lot to digest. Well, we're in the age of the digital record keeping. So we're going to help folk who didn't understand what I read in those two articles. We'll have somebody summarize it for you in 5 minutes. Now, this came out last year. Many students have still not regained pandemic era losses in reading math report. Let's see what ABC News said. Fair use, you Disney bastards, you.
We are now more than 2 years into this pandemic, and the COVID-19 death toll has surpassed 1 million cases here in the United States. And the pandemic has revealed stark racial disparities also.
You gotta love how they started off the video. But okay.
Impacting marginalized communities, including quality of education, as schools turn to remote learning and put a spotlight on gaps in education, including resources like funding and technology. One nonprofit, Communities in Schools, works to bridge that gap for equitable learning conditions and helping students re-engage in learning by bringing communities of support directly to them. It's President and CEO Ray Saldun that joins me now. Ray, so great to have you. You know, the U.S. has surpassed 1 million deaths, as we have mentioned and been talking about now for a week, and this virus taking such a huge toll on communities and communities of color in particular. Let's talk about how you and your staff have been working to address just the emotional toll that this virus has caused.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's such an incredible topic, especially as we are nearing graduation season, and there is, for some families, something to celebrate in that moment. But we're also recognizing that many students do not reach that milestone, and it's for a number of reasons that we at Communities and Schools are often working inside schools, connecting with students and families to understand what those challenges are that are really confronting many of the families, especially with the pandemic, and as you described, the disproportionate effect that this has had on many of our young people, but specifically students of color. One statistic I was looking at is we reached 1 million lives lost now through the pandemic. If you double click and zoom in, one statistic by the National Institute of Health is that 140,000 children have a caregiver. That is the person who they turn to for love and support and also basic resources in need. But of the 140,000, 65%, about 91,000 of those students are students of color. So disproportionately has had an impact of our communities of color, and in that way has left many students navigating a very difficult pathway towards graduation and truly towards writing their success stories. So at Communities and Schools, we have about 3,000 staff working alongside our teachers and principals, because if you understand schools and you recognize and see statistics like the teacher shortages, you recognize that teachers don't need another job responsibility or another job description to build relationships, to work on those things that are happening outside of the classroom that students are bringing in. So that's what we do at Communities and Schools. But that's also the way that school leaders are rethinking how we do school in America in a post-pandemic world.
So, Ray, you're not just president and CEO of this organization. This organization helped you. How did that happen? Give us some background.
Yeah, so I'm at Communities and Schools the same way that many of our students, the 1.7 million that we meet, that we work with all across the country, the same way they do, which is I met Mrs. Reyes. I didn't know I was meeting a nonprofit or an organization that is across the country. I just knew that Mrs. Reyes was there when I was struggling as a student, when there was things happening with my family and in my community, and I didn't know who to turn to. If it was how to apply to college, it was how to pay for college. It was how to deal with the fact that, I was dealing with traumatic issues at home or in the neighborhood. Building a relationship is the centerpiece of what we need to think about when we're redesigning schools. So I met Communities in Schools as a product of the program. I'm excited now I get to lead the organization at a time that the demand for our work has never been greater, and the demand to change the way that we build schools to be schools of justice for those students who are disproportionately and oftentimes left behind, students that look like me, that come from the communities I come from.
Look like me. So we went from students of color, now he's talking about the Hispanic community. Got it. Okay.
But we have a way to solve this, and we need to ensure that we are building wraparound student supports for these students to remove obstacles, but ultimately to build relationships, to get students to write their success story.
It's pretty amazing. 2,900 Title I schools you deal with, and you've now caught the attention of billionaire Mackenzie Scott, who I understand has donated more than $133 million to communities in schools. Tell me where that money will go specifically. Where will the kids see this money at work? Where will Mackenzie Scott see this money at work?
Great question, and we are just thrilled that Mackenzie Scott has donated to support organizations like Communities in Schools. But I have to tell you, as a head of a nonprofit working in 110 different communities, 3,000 schools, you can't fall in love with your solution. You have to focus on the problem. And so when we think about how to deploy those dollars, we're asking our 3,000 staff all across the country to make sure that we are building bridges for those students who are dealing with homelessness, who are dealing with food insecurity, mental health issues that are causing behavioral outbursts. So for us, school districts are asking, how do we grow and expand? Not just into the 20 schools, we need you in 40 of our schools. So that's what we hope this public-private partnership and the jet fuel that is this grant from Mackenzie Scott can.
Y'all see that, right? Remember what I said about not having the resources for remote learning? There you go.
And help us get into every Title I school in the country.
Well, you're the perfect example of how this organization works and does pretty amazing things in our communities. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, Ray.
So there's that. Now we get to the show. Put a one if you're ready for the main event. We gonna go up north. They're in college and they can't read. You're probably saying to yourself, you can get into college if you can't read. There's ways to do it. What if I told you we have exceptional students? The best of the best that the students like to push out, and the teachers like to push out, and the principals and the superintendents and the districts, parents, friends of the parents. They like to laud. But we come to find out they can't even read their own graduation cake. You don't believe me. Not about that last part, but everything I said prior to that, I figured you didn't. We're going to go to Hartford, Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to listen to a young lady explain her story. If you think this rabbit hole is deep, this rabbit hole is deep. Go ahead.
Natural News 8 special report, the harrowing tale of a Hartford Public Schools graduate. She earned her diploma, unable to read or write, and what she endured is troubling.
She said that.
So she got socially promoted, yet she couldn't read or write. She's an honors student, an honors graduate that cannot read or write.
Down with News 8's Eva Zamaris for her first TV interview. She shares her message.
This is a special report from
a precious moment in time captured in a photo of a young girl with so much hope and promise for the future. But her
Cody, this has nothing to do with DEI. Okay, we got one of those. This is not DEI, sir. I think y'all don't know what DEI is, but I forget it. Never mind.
her journey from that moment would prove to be unlike anything she could have ever expected.
My name is Aley Chartiz, A-L-E-Y, as H-A-O-R-T.
Struggling to spell her own name.
We didn't even get a minute in. The girl is an honors student and she can't even spell her own name out loud. How did she do this on the SAT? Cody, you sound really uneducated. How was that DEI, sir? Explain to us how that's DEI.
Name. 19-year-old Alicia Ortiz tells us the school district she entrusted with her education failed her, graduating last year, unable to read or write.
My time in Harvard Public School was a time that I don't wish upon anyone.
Ortiz moved from Puerto Rico to Connecticut, becoming a Hartford Public School student in the first grade. She struggled with a speech impediment, dyslexia, ADHD, and initially a language barrier.
Every first day of school, I would tell the teacher, hey, I cannot read and write, so please be patient with me, so everyone knows.
For years, she asked for educational resources and support, but instead, she says she was bullied, harassed, and neglected by district employees.
I cried knowing that the people who has big titles know that this is happening, and no one has stepped up to do something about it.
Ortiz has now filed a lawsuit against the city, Board of Education, and one of her special education teachers, claiming her learning disabilities were not properly addressed by the board, and as a result, she continued to struggle academically. This specific complaint names Tilda Santiago, a special education case manager and teacher, who would allegedly yell at, belittle, ridicule, and humiliate Ortiz, adding Ortiz would frequently run to other teachers and or administrators in tears and emotional distress. We reached out to Santiago for a comment. She directed our request to the Board of Education staff attorney. We're waiting to hear back. Ortiz used talk-to-text and other technology to get her grades up, walking the stage at graduation. A moment filled with mixed emotions.
It's the treatment that she had to go through at the hands of several of the people who were the adults in the room who were supposed to be helping her.
We reached out to the city and Board of Education, who tell News 8 they can't comment on ongoing litigation. The superintendent's office also declined to comment. Carol Gale, president of Hartford Federation of Teachers, told us she can't speak on the specific lawsuit, but thinks there needs to be a review of policy. It does give educators in Hartford pause to reflect on the sometimes conflicting goals to increase graduation rates, while also maintaining high expectations consistent with what a high school diploma should mean. Ortiz wants to see change happen so that no other student will have to experience what she did.
Education is so important, and I believe we have forgotten the meaning of it.
Again, we did reach out to the school district for a comment. As for that lawsuit, they're seeking an undisclosed amount in damages. Many have rallied around Ortiz, getting her the support that she needs. She was accepted into UConn and wants to focus on special education policy and advocacy. Eva Zamaris, News 8.
So she got into UConn. Good school. But the kids can't read. Exactly, missions, visions. I do the same thing with my daughter. My wife does the same thing. We always ask her, spell your name, write it out. Mm. This is what we face as a community. Because they know what a focused family can produce. They want to dumb our children down because they want our children to not have the capacity to fight back until it's too late. I hope a lot of people that are against what we do understand that's why we do it. You may not understand it, you may not like it, but we do it for a reason. Because we do not want Elisa Ortiz's out there. We don't want children from that 09 graduating class in Atlanta out there. When our kids leave our house, we have an expectation that they will go out there and change the world using their voice and their actions. They're able to think for themselves and understand what the best decision is for themselves and create the next generation and so on and so forth. Yes, homeschool is an option, but if you're going to homeschool, you got to do it 100%. You can't half-ass it. Because like I preach on here, we can blame the teachers all we want. We also have to bear responsibility. Those are our children. It's not their children. Habibi, first off, there's no Prime Minister of Africa. Africa is a continent with 54 nations. There's no Prime Minister. So, yeah. Well, D, I hope all 5 of your children change the world in whatever they want to do. Not everybody has the option to just quit their job and homeschool their kids. That's why we try to teach balance here. You got to be involved in your kid's life. I don't care how tired you are. Look at their homework. Communicate with their teachers. Even the bare minimum, going to the PTA meetings. Go parent-teacher conferences. Get the curriculum. Take a picture of the curriculum the first day they get it. It'll go a long way. We all went through school, so we know what they're going to teach them. Let's be proactive and get our kids ahead of it. My wife and I did that, and what was the result? My daughter, I'm still waiting on the test results, but she could go into the gifted program next year because we were proactive. That's how that's how we gotta have these kids. Get them proactive. South Africa does not have a prime minister, it has a president. And there was nothing wrong with what he said. That's not what we're talking about. Thank you so much. No, sir. My kid had to go. She couldn't take the test one day, the other test, because she was sick. She didn't fail it. See, unlike y'all, her teachers and the people in the district know who my wife and I are because we keep constant updates and we ask for constant updates. So please don't do that. We're not lazy parents. Thank you. The kids can't read. I even saw people get mad at that Miss Rachel person. Mm.
We the people! We the people! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice! We the people! We the people! We the people! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice.
You should be working on making sure these kids can read, but you know, you want to be outside and be performative. Okay, Rebecca, you got it. D, the chosen way is going to change when the people stand up. I'm going to give y'all the best way you can do that. November 3rd, 2026. I know it's a year and 5 months away. I know. Vote everybody out. I'm just speaking to the adults now. Vote everybody out in Congress that can be voted out. Let's start fresh. If you want to do something on a local level, do what they did to us in school. Have summer reading lists. You can make them up. You could give your kids the last 20 days of this month to fuck around. Oh yeah, July 1st, you read 1 to 3 books a day. And after you read said books, you come back to me, little one, and you explain what you read to me. You can even add incentives. If you articulately explain what you read and it's satisfactory, I'm finna take you get a toy. We go get a Pizza Hut pizza like they did with the Bookie Club. Hell, I may even give you an extra 15 minutes by yourself. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can even mix it up with the math. I'm gonna give you this worksheet, 20 questions. You fill those out correctly, all 20, you get whatever you want. Do that for the rest of the summer. It will make a marked difference when they go back to school. Make your teenagers and your preteens write book reports once a month. I think that would be beautiful. There you go, D. Do that. Dr. Phil, if she's in charge of teachers, that means she sees the curriculum. She shapes the curriculum on the federal level. She's in charge of the resources for the teachers to function. She's just as complicit. We can't sit here and say there's no way we can help our kids. They love video games so much. Cool. Give them coding books. Let them create a binary program. It's very easy. Hell, they have the goddamn they have robotics now that you could put together. Buy them that and tell them, listen, I'm not gonna help you. Here's the instructions. Figure it out. It ain't that hard. Like when that one fool came in here. Well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. When that one person said that the dummies can't. It's literally 2 words. Look at all this information. We can't be lazy in front of our kids because then they're going to be lazy. I get it. It's the summertime. People want to screw around. I get it. But then y'all going to send them back to school in August and September. And they're going to be at the same place they were when they left in May and June. There has to be progression. David, what does this have to do with the Caribbean? We didn't even mention the Caribbean. Okay. All right. Okay. See, this is why I tell y'all, before you say something, you should address the room and listen. This has nothing to do with the Caribbean. If you work for the Department of Education or are posting on Twitter about how angry you are about losing your job, please realize only 27% of school-age children between 4th and 12th grade will be able to read it. That sucks.
Gender
What this
young
mean?
children. Here, Chicago now at the center of controversy once again. Critics are tearing into a drag story time for toddlers held at a public library. Protesters on both sides of the issue clashing outside as leaders refuse to cancel the event. The library says it's all about inclusion. Critics say it's about pushing a woke, sexualized agenda on young children. Garrett Tenney following the story live for us in Chicago this morning. Garrett, how's it going?
Yeah, Bill, the library told a local news site that there wasn't any sexualized content planned for this drag story time, but
Why are they still doing that, number one? Number two, hey, y'all parents that decided that this was a good idea, why the fuck didn't you just read to your kids? Why do you need a drag queen to read to your kids? Maybe these are the kids I'm talking about that became adults that can't fucking read. So yeah, y'all bitch about the Department of Education, these teachers fucking your kids up. They not teaching them nothing, but you want a fucking drag queen to sit in front of your kids and teach them words and shit. Okay. All right.
the critics say the fact that a man dressed as a woman was the special guest performer at an event forbade.
Here's my thing too. You saw that and said it was cool. Like you saw that. Because I'm sure they had flyers up and you said that was cool. Okay. Back to great value, Tom Brady and his report.
Is completely inappropriate. Protesters showed up outside of the branch of the library on the south side, the Beverly branch, Tuesday.
The Beverly branch. Let's see where that is. This is on the southwest side. Okay, let's look. Let's see. West 95th Street. Like, what neighborhood is that? I want to see the demographics. Beverly, here we go. Beverly is one of the city's unique neighborhoods, so it's an actual neighborhood. Okay, let me look. Beverly, Chicago, demographics. So it's, welcome to Beverly Hills. Okay, let's see. Demographics. 55% in 2021, 55.3% white, 32.4% black, 1.3 Asian, 3.7 other racial categories. Latinos make up 7.2. So this is mostly a middle class. No, I'm sorry. An older folk, 35 to 49. That's the predominant. Median household income was $113,824 in 2021. So this is kind of middle class, upper middle class. Okay. All right. Glad we got that background a little bit.
After the library refused to cancel the event, and things got heated with some of the LGBTQ advocates who came to support the story time with drag queens. But protest organizers say this kind of event isn't what their community wants or needs.
And our kids can't read. We didn't need a drag queen to come lead story time. We needed a phonics and literacy coach to come lead story time.
Yeah, it's called the parents. It's called the parents. Learn phonics at home. Y'all remember Hooked on Phonics? You sent it to the house, not the school.
Why are you doing it in a public library with our public dollars that you're not even asking the community, are they okay with it? The community didn't even know what was going on. This all property taxes are going up to the roof while you're teaching our children all types of crazy stuff.
Here's my question, and I got into it with her on X a little bit. Why are you not paying attention to what's going on with your children? This library is in a middle to upper middle section of Chicago. Why aren't y'all paying attention to what's going on in every facet of your neighborhood? Because I'm sure when this was announced, people started talking about it. This can't be the first time you knew this. Why didn't you go to your alderman that runs that district and say, why did you allow this? Okay.
A library official told the local news site Block Up Chicago that Drag Storytime for Babies was a family-oriented event to promote...
Did you just say babies? They said babies. I think I heard babies.
Block Up Chicago, the Drag Storytime for Babies was a family-oriented event to promote early literacy, belonging, and self-expression through age-appropriate books and songs. This was just the first of many Pride Month events Chicago Public Libraries has planned, including...
Okay, let me help out Chicago a little bit. I fuck with Chicago. Chicago, all you got to do to make sure that this doesn't happen is not show up. I think that's easy. They tell you the dates this is going to happen. It's not like y'all showed up at the library and then they just pushed it out there when they had enough people. Y'all know when this is going to happen. You don't go to the library that day. Your silent protest makes more impact than y'all going outside saying something. Because again, this is your neighborhood.
Intergenerational queer art making events.
Moon Shoes, let me help you. We don't give a fuck. We don't have a problem with trans people. All we say is don't corrupt the babies. That's all we say. Go live your life. If you feel you're the opposite gender, go live your life. Just don't corrupt the kids. That's all we ask. Now, that's just me. Leave my kid out of it, but go live your life. Some people may feel that way, some people may not. You gotta make the decision that's best for you. Stay away from my kid. I think that's fair. Just like you wouldn't want a homophobe around you if you're a gay person. If they want to change, exactly, if they want to change themselves at 18, that's their problem. Let them deal with that. Stay away from the babies. But, you know.
National emergency. That's what we have in our education system. It's pitiful. I've been in it 35 years and it's getting worse. Last 4 years, we just brushed over the problems. Didn't try to correct any.
And why did y'all brush over the problem, Tommy? Why did you brush over it? Because it was about hating on the previous administration. You didn't give a fuck about them kids.
I would hope that you would be really involved in this.
They're going to go see the Most High. They're going to see him.
Majority of them.
They're going to have a lot to explain.
It's a shame. It's criminal, to be honest with you. Would you please get that out of the classroom?
Oh, we're going to blame the cell phone now. Okay, here we go. So the Republicans now going to blame the cell phone. We're not going to blame the fact that they sat in the house for months with no teachers, no guidance, none of that. And then y'all gave them the bullshit hybrid option after the bullshit remote learning. Knowing that there was not rural access to the internet. You knew this. And you come from a state where it's more rural than urban. And you have the nerve to be saying this. The cell phone. Notice, they told you had politicians tell them off to go to Chinatown to go support the Asians during that time. You didn't hear them say, hey, while we're sitting in the house locked down, read to your kids. None of that.
When they're looking at a text, I'm sick of hearing about we need those in the classroom. Let's take our schools back. We've given it over to the people that actually don't want to educate our kids. So thanks for your background in educational agencies, and if confirmed, I hope you would assist Secretary McMahon in executing at the more local level. Can you address that?
Absolutely, and thank you for that. I couldn't agree more as the parent of a 13-year-old. Absolutely. One of the things that we did in Tennessee that I think was the secret sauce and has been over a long period of time is that locals know what's best for their communities and their students. Memphis, Tennessee and Lake County, Tennessee are 3 to 4 hours apart and could not be more different. My home state of California and my adopted home state of Tennessee could not be more different. We need to make sure that locals are empowered to make the best decisions for their students. And when the money is closest to the child, when the decisions are closest to the child, we can best serve the child. And
November 3rd, next year.
And completely aligned with Secretary McMahon to ensure that we can help our states and our local communities to make the best decisions for their students in their communities.
Well, David, they didn't do it in the school. They did it in a library.
School choice should be an option. I've been in many inner city schools, and for some reason, a lot of my colleagues do not want to educate kids in the inner city. School choice should be mandatory in a lot of our inner cities because they can't read and write. And if you can't,
Here we go. While millions of kids in America can't read or write at grade level, teachers' unions are too busy stoking chaos in our streets and enabling insurrection. Oh, now we're talking about insurrections again. Okay. All right. Somebody saw that other person's tweet that said, you went too low with 27. I'm going to go to 40. Well, when I tell you they can't read, they're going to just start stealing each other's tweets again. This is great. There you go. Fairfax County Public Schools celebrate Pride while kids can't read or do math. How do we wake up parents to celebrate actual accomplishments, not sexual preference? You need to get to the parents. Here's the problem, man, because you probably one of them that don't give a shit about them kids. This is performative. Because you could have used your platform to talk about, hey, with my kids, this is the book we read, and who want to join a book club? Where are you fuckers with your book clubs? Y'all could do it on Zoom. You could do it on YouTube. Have a book club. Y'all don't do that. Encourage your kids to start book clubs. Now, moon shoes, we shouldn't be talking about jumping off bridges. I mean, you got on the shoes that bounce, so you're going to be okay. We shouldn't be talking about people jumping off bridges. That's crazy. Somebody with moon shoes telling people to jump off bridges, knowing they can bounce off the water. Damn, that's crazy. If you want to know why California's kids can't read or write, consider this commencement address from the 24-year-old president of Santa Ana Unified, one of the state's largest and worst.
Vote.
Let me hear it.
We must not stay silent. Because we live in a moment where there are people in power and in our neighborhoods telling us to keep our heads down, to not rock the boat, to not get too political.
Moonshoes, if I jump off the bridge, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to hit the water, and then a fish going to save me because I'm Aqualad. You going to jump off the bridge, bounce on the water, get to shore, and then they're going to take you to the nut farm. They're not going to put you to the nut farm because you jumped off the bridge. They're going to throw you in the nut farm because you're the only person in 2025 still wearing moon shoes.
But let me ask you something. Is it too political to demand that children should not be held in cages? Is it too political to be undocumented? Or is it too political to say that being undocumented is not a crime, but that separating a mother from her child is? Is it too political to believe that the color of your skin should not determine whether you survive a traffic stop?
What does this have to do with a commencement speech? You're talking to high schoolers. What are you doing? Sir, you should be talking about the accomplishments of these kids. Huh?
Is it too political to say that housing is a human right and...
Negro, they are going to college. Some of them are going into the trades. Can they get their footing first? Damn. You've already over-politicized these kids since the scamdemic.
No one should sleep on the street while luxury units sit empty. Is it too political to say your zip code should not determine whether you have clean air to breathe, safe?
What the heck? Sir, first off, you shouldn't even be talking about no clean air. You come from California with them Santa Ana winds and that El Nino and the La Nina. Don't do that, sir. And the Humboldt County weed. I don't even know if that still exists. Y'all got dispensaries all over the damn state. Knock it off, sir. If the earth moved wrong, y'all getting yellow feet. What do they call it in California? When that shit fall off the mountain? And it's like, it like fucks with people's ass, but what they call it? I was about to say yellow fever, but I don't know what they call that. Y'all piling. Do y'all understand California's piling come attack a motherfucker on a surfboard? And he got the nerve to be talking about clean air. Get out of here, bro. Smog Angeles? Boy, you better go sit down somewhere.
Safe water to drink or access to a park? Is it too political to demand that our tax dollars stop funding the killing of children in Gaza? And
why are you talking about Gaza with some high school kids? That motherfucker just trying to get out of here so they could go to the restaurant. They go home and go in the backyard and fire up the grill and have some hamburgers. And some tamales because, it's California. Why are you talking about Gaza?
instead start feeding and housing our children in our communities?
And you got motherfuckers cheering this. They got to be, you know what? That's probably the mixed kids' parents. That's probably them white liberals up in there.
No. The answer is no. What's political is a system that tells us that we should be grateful for scraps while billionaires decide who eats.
Billionaires decide who eats. I hope you're talking about Bill Gates when you say that, sir.
So to those that want our silence, I say this: you will not get it. You will not get it from the people of Santana, because the class of 2025 did not survive
Captain Blackbird, what the fuck are you talking about? That motherfucker came in here, didn't even address the room. He started talking about 9/11. 9/11 not for another 3 months. Okay. I don't even know where that came from.
the global pandemic, racial uprisings,
And second of all, nobody laughed about no mass murder. So I don't know what. Okay. All right. Family, you just got another example. Them kids can't read, boy. And not again promoted to captain. Lord, we in trouble.
economic hardships, and the attacks on our very identities just to graduate into a world that refuses to hear our voices. So you, the young people of Santana, have a sacred...
Did he say Santana? Did he say Santana? That sounds like a whole wrestler.
identities just to graduate into a world that refuses to hear our voices. So you, the young people of Santana, have a sacred responsibility. And that responsibility is not just to succeed, it is to interrupt. To interrupt systems that were never built to serve us.
Oh. So now the systems that allow... Now, okay, fine, fuck it, we'll go there. The systems that allowed you to come to this country, now you want them to dismantle it. I told you they don't give a fuck about the people coming behind them. You see that? He just admitted it.
To interrupt narratives that paint our people as problems instead of protagonists.
Whose fault was that? Whose fault was that? Because I thought it started in the neighborhood. I thought it started in the home. Now you blaming the system. But wait a minute. Y'all the same ones who be yelling at us when we be talking about the system, saying y'all need to stop acting like victims. We came here with nothing and we made something. Now you want to acknowledge there's a system. Oh, wow.
To interrupt cycles of violence that stretch from our neighborhoods to nations across the globe.
Oh, I thought y'all weren't violent. It's only the darkies, the blacks. I thought we were the only violent ones. Wait a minute, sir, since we're going to go here, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, because now the chat's going to devolve into something. But I don't care at this point. You mean white people, because according to y'all, a lot of y'all identify as white. So you're saying that white violence is permeating all over the country. That's what you're saying. That's what he said.
But your presence here, sitting in this chair.
Even they didn't even want him to finish that sentence. So what we're gonna do for you, we're gonna introduce you, hombre, to something black. I don't remember what I named it as. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's what they should have done. They should have had the Spanish version of that. Get off the stage. Oh Lord. We don't need more free college. We don't even have free college. Where is this free college? We need kids who can read by 12th grade, assess, intervene, lift them up before they fall. Where is this free college?
Where it's one of the top 5 states in America, not a laggard with the rest of the country, where Michigan is significant versus insignificant. And right now we're insignificant.
Based on that speech, you are at 75.
50-50, Tim.
So what is the more important issue that folks should be focused on? Education or more funding for roads?
Well, to solve the state's problems, it's not a single issue. But when you have appropriate leadership, people that actually understand what leadership means, you can set several initiatives and work to get those accomplished at the same time. One of the things that government is there to do is to provide education for its children in the state. And we have done a poor-ass job of it. There's no other way to say it. There's excuses across the board from Republicans and Democrats, and it's time we fix it. And we can fix it.
Does that mean raising more money for schools?
No, we don't have a funding problem with schools. Let me do a little quick math for you. The average, roughly, income per student is $15,000 per student. And some people say it's closer to 12,000, but 15,000 is simpler math. So
Talking about the funding.
the funding per pupil. And MEA just came out and said that there are 30 students per classroom, and that the classrooms are too full. Well, if you take 30 students times 15,000, that's $450,000 per classroom of revenue. The average income of a teacher in the state of Michigan is $69,000 right now. Let's round it up to 70. Where's the $380,000 per classroom, per school of money going?
It's going to the teacher retirement system that has a huge amount of debt that the schools continue and the state has to continue putting money. It's going into transporting kids to the classroom. It's going into running the buildings. It's going into lunches and breakfast for the kids.
And so the solution for education, Craig, that you're proposing, and
I'm not proposing anything. You asked where it's going, and I told you.
Well, that people propose, I'm sorry, is to keep raising funding for schools. And I was driving by, and we're spending all sorts of money building new buildings. How's that working for our kids? How's it work for our kids for yours? We put in $2 million football fields to have kids read at less than 50% literacy rate.
Because it's football. That's why, sir. Football. The ultimate meritocracy. Football and basketball. It's funny that they're in Michigan saying this when their economies are funded off of sports. A large amount of it. If it ain't the Detroit Pistons and their ownership team that built the downtown area, Ford Field, it's the University of Michigan, Michigan State. Football. Football. They traded in the Rust Belt for pigskin. And now the NCAA just lost their lawsuit, well, their counter lawsuit, and now they're going to have to pay back hundreds of billions of dollars to former players and establish across the board NIL deals.
Try taking away the football games. I'm not talking about taking away the football games, but we have to prioritize what's real in education. And there's great ideas. Does a new building help kids learn?
Kaidi, don't forget about the teacher that asked the black student to rub her feet.
Help kids learn. Do you realize studies indicate that reading comprehension is 50% lower when you go off a computer screen or an iPad than when you use books? And we've got people proposing that we should go to all computers to teach our kids. We have solutions. They're not fancy, but they require focus. Phonics is a reading-based solution. It's worked. It worked when it was implemented. In fact, America's highest reading scores were when public education mandated phonics. Purely phonics. We've now introduced over the last 10 years 5 or 6 different reading methods that don't work, and we continue to tank. So why haven't we addressed the phonics issue?
And he also forgot to mention, I know he was just talking about reading, but he also forgot about the Common Core bullshit that fucked up an entire half generation of kids. What this be? I get your point, but this was directed at Fever fans who are very vocal about only watching for her. This y'all some effing gaslighters, bro. So close. That's a completely different account. Wow. Why are you throwing rocks and hiding your hands? They can't even read that this is a different account. Oh, Lord. Yes, Steve Foster, no child left behind. What do I keep saying on here? Somebody put it in the chat. What do I always say when it comes to No Child Left Behind?
Thank God. I can finally say the things that happen. Now that I am no longer a teacher, thank God, I can finally say the things that have been on my mind all school year. Okay? As somebody that taught high school and basically educating our new young adults, we should all be scared. Every last one of us should be scared. These kids cannot read. They cannot write. There is no type of comprehension skills, no type of critical thinking. They cannot do anything on their own. They expect everything to be taught to them. Well, I won't even say taught. They expect everything to be given to them. So, in my class, we did this thing where I made them write once a week. So, they would have some type of assignment where they would have to write at least a paragraph, meaning 5 sentences. 5 sentences. The amount of assignments that I got in with 1 sentence, 2 sentences, the amount of complaints I got with the whole 5 sentences, that's too much, that's too much. Can we do 3? Can we do 3? Isn't 3 considered a paragraph? Oh, baby.
Well, technically 3 sentences is a paragraph. When we brought up, it was 3 to 5 sentences is a paragraph. But, everybody teaches different.
We are in for a wild ride, y'all. Every assignment that I gave them, I kid y'all not, every assignment that I gave them, there was a student that came to, several students that came to my desk and made me asked me to walk them through the entire assignment. The whole thing. But genuinely, the truth of the matter is, everybody is failing these kids. Everybody. The school board, with all these different rules, they're failing these kids. The principals or admin altogether, they're failing these kids, and they're failing the teachers because they're basically telling us that we had to just pass a child along just to keep these graduation numbers up.
And get more money.
So everybody, oh, and don't get me started on the parents. Like, I would call and say, hey, your child is failing, and the first thing is, well, why didn't I know about this? Probably because you didn't answer the phone. Probably because you didn't respond to my emails. On top of that, you have 24-hour access to Power School. When I tell y'all it is horrible, like, the parents that are here now are not the parents that we had growing up. My parents check my Power School weekly. And still to this day, my brother just graduated high school a few weeks ago, and still to this day, his grades were checked. Everybody's grades were checked. So, unfortunately, it's not these kids' faults. I mean, yeah, they're lazy, but, like, what are you supposed to do when all you got to do is tell your mama, well, she failing me? And the school board is going to accommodate that parent. Like, it's crazy, y'all. We should be very scared for our new nurses, our new doctors, our new everybody. These colleges are going to have to start lowering their requirements. They're going to have to start lowering the fact, or just lowering everything, because the way that stuff is going now, the amount of kids that are going to come into these schools and they cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot do anything without AI. We should be scared. We should really be scared. Have a great day.
A paragraph typically contains 3 to 10 sentences, but the focus should be on clearly expressing a single idea rather than strictly adhering to a specific sentence count. You can explain yourself in 3 sentences. Good? All right. Well, Dave, we would love to have teachers. Remember, we had teachers growing up that didn't use the school system. They just said, okay, you know what? I got to teach this, but I'm going to do it my way. They don't even let them do that no more. They saying they're being renegades. Mm. And of course, the head. All right. We showed that. Instagram teen accounts can't be relied on to actually shield. Oh, that's something new. Scripted phonics lessons are too boring for teachers. Evidence-based learning isn't like cool or fun, dude. So what if the kids can't read, man? I need to pedagogically express myself with my unique vibes. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. There are people who don't think early literacy intervention matters. Y'all know what's going to happen. Don't you? Isn't it supposed to be a comma? She wrote a comma. Isn't it supposed to be a question mark? All right, never mind. Y'all know what's going to happen to the kids who can't read, right? I do, and I'm trying to save as many as I can. Have you ever thought ahead 5 years, 2050? There are people who have and are betting on it. Yes, it's called the government, and they want drones. Okay. All right. People sometimes say kids don't read anymore, but as a children's author who visits schools up and down the country every week, I can tell you that if you give kids access to books, help them find ones they want to read and let them read for pleasure, they still love reading. That is true. To the people spreading the false claim that Elon Musk and Doge are responsible for oh, okay, never mind. How come kids in MKE can't read at grade level? Yes, they're not subject to the same standards because, oh my God. Yes, sir, they're not up to the same standards because people are paying into that system directly. On top of their taxes that we pay for public schools, them people that allow their kids to go to private schools, they're paying tuition. So yes, they hold themselves more accountable. And their kids, because it's their money. Just like parents, they get pissed off at their kids in college that don't apply themselves. Cuomo, 180 languages spoken in our public schools. That's a strength, not a weakness. We have high school age kids that can't read. That might be y'all's man. That motherfucker look like he got a do-rag on. That's crazy. So let me get this straight. You can't use the language in the Connecticut chamber, but kids can read this in libraries. You all need to be jailed for pushing child. All right. You're talking about that. We showed that. It's so boring. Gen Z parents don't like reading to their kids, and educators are worried. It's boring. Now, mind you, this is our generation. These are the millennials. These are their kids. Yeah. Reading's boring. Okay. So I said it starts in the home. Hey, all you nurses. Yeah, I'm going to knock y'all a little bit. Why don't you give your kids the goddamn nursing books that y'all don't use no more? Y'all literally could start STEM programs in your house and you won't fucking do it. That's just a thought. You know, it's just a thought. We went over this. Buttercup, you can smirk all you want. Facts are the kids can't read or do math in this country due to nonsense being taught.
That be true.
In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics.
Wow. How could that be true? Huh, there it is. It's true. Bruh.
Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me...
Yo, look at his face. Yo, he's about to cook him, dog. Check out that smile. He's cooking.
D. Foster, what did I say that was wrong? Y'all got them nursing books, right? Give it to your kids. Let them read on how to administer IVs and what to look for and how to medical billing code. You don't want to teach them about Cat in the fucking Hat. Let them see it. Take them out of the goddamn Maxima and put them on the kitchen table and say, hey, y'all want to read something? Read this. Get them kids excited about something.
Your definition of basic, and they're talking about like adding a few numbers together.
Okay. All right, Wes. Cook him, dog. He said 40% of the high...
Damn, let the guy... everybody just wants to be on TikTok.
Tell us about the high schools in Baltimore.
So while the Trump administration has been trying to shutter the doors of the Department of Education.
Bad start, Wes.
Why is he doing this? Oh my God. I'm about to leave this video. He doing too much. I think he having a seizure, bruh. Okay.
That's the Federal Department of Education, which has nothing to do with Maryland or Baltimore or the high schools or
They get money from the Federal Department of Education, correct? So yes, they are complicit in them kids not being able to read or do math. I love how when Trump got in, everybody separated the Department of Education away from the local and state. But when Biden was in, it was his fault. when the standard never changed?
In Maryland, we're ensuring students and educators actually have the resources that they need to succeed.
Oh, the resources they need to succeed. Maryland ranks 13th in the nation.
Good.
For people spending at
You
about
can watch from the background, asshole.
So you guys are spending plenty.
By the way, let me help you. ASSHOLE, asshole. Using it in a sentence? Okay. Zeppelin, who can't spell Zeppelin correctly? You're an asshole. Exclamation point. Thank you so much.
Money, Wes, but that has nothing to do with
By the way, it had a contraction in it. I know you forgot what those were.
Baltimore, math, or the students not being proficient in those scores. It has nothing to do with what he said.
We made record investments in public education for 3 straight years, nearly $10 billion this year alone.
Exactly, Wes. You made record investments, and 40% of the schools have no one proficient in math, dude.
Oh, so the 10, and I hate Westmore, but I'm trying to tell you a story. So him putting in 3 years, $10 billion, y'all thought it was going to be like that, right? Just like that. Money thrown in. I just want y'all to understand, these are the assholes that voted for Trump because he talked about money. Money was going to fix everything. They have been conditioned to think that a politician investing money is somehow going to fix a problem within a year, when the problem has been systemic for years.
Maybe who's not proficient in math? Wes. He's like,
You're not proficient in math.
we spent $10 billion on 150,000 students. That's $16 million a student. That's 953% above the national average, which is 100% better than anybody else. Bro is the governor of Maryland. The kids don't know how to do math, and people are in the street.
That was actually his problem now, but it wasn't his problem before he ran. The entire state is complicit. The local governments are complicit. The federal government is complicit.
Baltimore.
He's doing too much.
Directing over $1 billion to community schools, which are already boosting academic performance in our highest poverty schools.
Okay, so it was 5 minutes ago years old when I figured out what a community school is. So supposed community schools are being placed in high poverty areas and include a lot more than school, from nutrition programs to aftercare to things like dental, medical evaluation, and other social services like food assistance and parenting classes. And look, that's all great and everything, and I'm sure that that's obviously going to increase the probability of people scoring better in school. So,
And how did they get to that point, sir? They had to put money in the system, right? Well, and I'm sure that didn't take a year to do. It was gradual, correct? Just like gradually since the pandemic, the kids got worse. It's almost like in life, when something starts, it has to snowball. It just doesn't become from a rock to the belly of the snowman.
I'm not necessarily against that, but it's essentially turning the school into like a community center. And as much as I understand how these communities might need this, and I understand how those things could improve academic performance.
Oh, damn, here we go.
Medical services depend on them being there, but that's not academics. It could.
Oh my God. You just explained what a community school is, and one of the first things okay, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back.
Community schools are being placed in high poverty areas and include a lot more than school, from nutrition.
A lot more than school. So the first thing you mentioned with a community school is academics. I tell you, boy, And the reason why I brought that up, family, is because this scumbag wrote the captions. Because on TikTok, sometimes when you say things, I guess the AI doesn't pick up what you say, so you have to go back and fix the captions. The first thing you mentioned was academics. But you said that has nothing to do with academics. The kids become adults and now they can't read.
Programs to aftercare to things like dental, medical evaluation, and I understand how those things could improve academic performances.
But he said it had nothing to do with school. It could improve academic performance. It has nothing to do with school.
They're there, and maybe their medical services depend on them being there. But that's not academics. It could essentially improve test scores by just making it so they show up more.
But that, according to you, that has nothing to do with academics. Oh my God.
As they're there, and maybe their medical services depend on them being there. But that's not academics. It could essentially improve test scores by just making it so they show up more. Which, yes, that result is good.
Which has something to do with academics. Oh God.
But isn't necessarily making them smarter.
What if those essential medical services that they put in this quote unquote community school maybe diagnose a kid with something that somebody else didn't think they had? Should we go back to the Cosby Show episode where they found out he had dyslexia and all of a sudden Theo went from a failing student to damn near straight A's? And it all started because a teacher figured it out. Maybe these kids who are sick and keep missing school, maybe they figure out what's wrong with them and put them on a program. They start going to school more. Their grades go up because they're there. Maybe these teenage mothers that are still there, they can put their kids in aftercare. They can do classes after school or during school so they don't have to worry about their kid. They can focus. Nutrition, because y'all claim that the food they're giving us is killing our kids and they're making them all fucked up. Maybe you improve that. Maybe the kids perform better. But that would also require you as a parent to be involved in what's going on in the school and in your kids' lives. But you're right. None of that shit I just said is going to improve academics. You're right. Go ahead, sir.
And money spent on community schools, for example, how exactly does that job training and dental services affect somebody that's in first, second, third, fourth grade? Isn't it more of an issue that those people don't have access to those things outside of through the school? Wouldn't that be in a different department or a different category altogether of funding?
No, because it's part of the funding, sir. No. It's part of the funding. You have to fund the community, sir. Not just the school. You have to fund the community. They don't want to fund the community until it benefits them.
So if money is supposed to go to education, specifically school, but it ends up going to dental visits in the supposed school system.
What is wrong with dental services? Jesus Christ. Okay.
Is that school? Is that increasing math scores?
Yes. Healthy kids learn better. Do they not? My God. Oh, God.
Bring the best and brightest teachers into our classrooms. We've raised teacher pay across the state.
Oh, increase the salaries of the teacher. Look at that. Maryland, 7th in the nation.
Okay, he said he oh, Lord, the man can't read. Oh, Lord. The man, Westmore's old Jamaican jerk chicken ass just said we raised the pay up 10%. This fool is about to say, oh, you're 7th. Did you expect them to hit first? Past 10 with 10%. Okay, sir, where were they before? Oh, Lord.
At an average salary of $84,000.
I'm going to tell you why, Joshua. Because he saw Westmore, he heard Baltimore, and he said, oh, it's black people. That's why. Because this whole video, I guarantee you, he's not once going to mention the state. I'm not talking just Westmore. I'm talking about the entire apparatus in Annapolis, Maryland. He's not going to mention it.
$1,000. The average school teacher in America works 38 weeks a year.
Ooh. 9.5 months. Ooh. There's people, great. They get 2.5 months off. Ooh. Some of us work all year round, sir.
The average salary of $8,400, that's about $2,200 a week. If you multiply
What the fuck? What did he just say? He's bitching about a teacher in Maryland making 85 grand. In an economy where people are working 2 jobs. He can't be serious right now.
$1,000. The average school teacher in America works 38 weeks a year. At the average salary of $8,400, that's about $2,200 a week. If you multiply that by 50 weeks, which is the typical work year, it's 100.
What the fuck? What? Okay, sir. Sir. Did you not even factor taxes, or you're just going off gross? He must have been a great math scholar in school. He must have been. We got a pocket watching TikToker worried about a teacher that makes $8,800 gross in Maryland, who has to pay taxes, union dues, their own bills. They'd probably be lucky a month to walk away with about half of that. And you're assuming that every teacher in Maryland is making 84 grand.
$10,000 a year salary, Wes. And not only that, 7th in the nation, and the kids can't math. Saying that you squandered a bunch of money and you're going to squander more doesn't answer the question of what he's talking about, nor address the issue at all. Bro was a clown, and he had that smug smile on his face.
Bro, you, Trump, and Westmore are clowns. Because all three of you don't even have a solution for it. Trump just ran out a bunch of statistics. Westmore is trying to do damage control. And you literally said certain programs in schools that they implement will not help academics. But then everyone you listed off, you said it might help.
No matter what insults are being lobbed at our students or our educators.
It's not an insult, Morpheus. It's the truth.
And there you go. So if anybody was thinking it, he just confirmed it. And y'all know what I'm talking about.
He said an objective fact, a statistic, a provable statistic. That's not an insult. His response has all the typical leftoid, soggy brain responses of a politrickster. You say that it's...
But you listen to Trump.
statistic and a fact as an insult, and then instead of responding to that insult or accepting any responsibility for it,
He literally accepted. I hate Westmore, but he literally accepted responsibility. He told you what he did. All right. Okay. Let me help you, sir. He's the governor. He has to accept responsibility. Because if he doesn't, people kill him online and to his face for not accepting responsibility.
you say, oh, we're just going to throw more money at it.
If he feels as though that's the solution, then let him throw money at it. It don't fail, then he's going to have to come up with something else. It's usually how life works. But y'all praise Trump for throwing money at a situation. But then when it don't work, you blame everybody else. I got it. I just want to figure out. I got it.
We're going to fight for them. Daddy! Typical soggy brain more.
Why is he doing so much? Why is he being performative? And why did you go inside? Did it start raining in your porch? Why did you go inside?
Perfect. We're going to fight for them. Doubt it. Typical soggy brain Morpheus. Facts are insults and truth is a lie. How does anyone in Baltimore count on this guy? Oh, wait, they can't. Count on him because they can't count it all.
Sir, evidently you can't do percentages. You might be a product of the Baltimore school system. Well, I should say Baltimore County. You might be a product of this. You literally tried to own him by saying teacher in Maryland makes $110,000 when he literally said average. And you didn't take into account percentages and taxes and utilities and bills. Okay.
Math isn't mathing. The math isn't mathing.
I tell you they don't. Oh, man. No, Jack, that's not what we're saying. Damn, y'all are proving these people right when we say the kids can't read. That's not what I said. Every state is different. We don't know what the state criteria is to pay them teachers. I'm saying that if we want these kids to succeed out here with the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic, everybody got to get involved. It can't just be on the teachers, and it can't just be on the parents. It's got to be a community system. That's what we're saying. Nobody's told y'all to underfund the Department of Education. That's what the president right now said. Get rid of the Department of Education. Great. You're going to send all the resources to the states. Now you're depending on the state to teach your kid. What have we learned? Nothing. You're going to give the state more power to fuck up your kid. When my solution is the parents, the community, the teacher, all get together, make sure these kids can read, write, and do math. So they can go out in the world and at least have a foundation they can build off of. Everybody want to blame one side. I want to blame everybody. So we can all come together and find a solution. But fine. But fine. It's okay. I gotta go to work. And I gotta see how much charge I can get on this phone. Great, Jack. We have some of the lowest taxes in the world. We have some of the dumbest kids on the planet. The first world nation has some of the most undereducated kids in the world. It's funny how that always works out. Y'all always want to bring up the money, and you don't want to bring up the results of that money. This motherfucker said Democrats, and there it is. Because the Republicans ain't do nothing wrong, right? Right, because there's no Republican areas where the kids can't read, right? We just gonna keep it to the Democrats, right? Yeah, the Republican areas they got largely saved from what happened during the pandemic. You're right. Because we didn't see Tommy Tuberville testify in front of Congress that these kids are terrible when it comes to school. And he from Alabama, a quote-unquote red state, a conservative state, a Republican state. Got it. Got it. You had an entire Congress filled with Democrats and Republicans that oversaw these kids failing for 4 years and didn't address it one time. All they said is take the phones out of this school because that's really going to help these kids. Not having cell phones. That's going to improve academics. Just that. Got it. Got it. Oh, Lord. But there you go. They all know what the problem is. Not now one of them that we've elected can figure out the solution. Oh, man. I know y'all not in there arguing about New York politics. The same New York politics that Democrats and Republicans fucked up for years. I know y'all not in there arguing about that. And before you tell me the entire state council is Democrat, I want you to offer this. There's Republicans that run towns in there. You've had Republicans run New York City. Has shit improved? No. New York City has progressively gotten worse under both sides for years. And you're hearing that from a New Yorker. So let's not do that. Did you forget about Bloomberg? Bloomberg ran as a Republican, sir. Or did we forget that? Randy Weingarten accelerated her profile under Bloomberg. And she took her local bullshit and went federal. Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Republicans had nothing to do with New York State failing. You're right. Nothing. Yes, Jay, Bloomberg was a Republican when he ran in 2001. Yes, he was a Republican. Did you forget that he changed his political affiliation twice after that? Did you forget that? Ah, you forgot about that. Okay. All right. Okay. You're right. You're right. Because there wasn't a time when he was still mayor, he ran as an independent, right? He changed to being an independent. Yeah, we forgot about that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, Jay. And you from New York and you said that. He changed to be an independent because he knew he was going to lose against the Democrat the year he was up. And then he also said he got disillusioned with the Republican Party in New York. They weren't going with his script. You're hearing this from a kid who didn't hear hip hop in the cars of their parents. They had the news station or they had the sports station on. You don't believe me? Okay, go look up the videos after 9/11 when Giuliani and Bloomberg were walking around the city together. And everybody was like, he's basically grooming him to be his successor. But you're right. You right. Jack, we didn't let him save face. He said nothing. He said nothing constructive to the conversation. We're not letting him save face. We already proved that he was wrong before we banned him. This is why I tell folk, before you walk in here, know what you're talking about. You can't tell me you're from New York City or New York State and you don't know what the New York State politics are. That's crazy. And yes, he could be embarrassed, sitting in the background not saying nothing. But anyway, that's what we do here. We let you pin yourself in a corner, we debunk you, and then you got to go. But anyway, I gotta get to work. So hopefully you learned something. If you did, I done my job. If not, I'll try to be better next time. I will see y'all tomorrow. We're gonna go over a great debate, such as it was, with old Tatum Tots, Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, whatever you want to call him. We can also call him the Israel Billboard because he has 2 tattoos of Israel on his forearms. Versus Brian Shapiro of Pushing the Limits on YouTube. They got into a heated debate over Trump. And we're going to watch Brandon Tatum lose to a leftist. Because that's what happened. And it was sad. I might even title that Part 3, The Kids Can't Read. Do not debate if you don't read. But y'all will see what happened tomorrow. Since I'm off, we can go a while on that, like we did here today. But anyway, y'all take care, stay safe, and you know what to do when the agents of chaos come to mess up your existence.